Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, sisters. In today's video, we're going to be talking about 4 of the most important things that every Muslim woman should know before getting married. The day that you get married is one of the most important days in your life, particularly as a Muslim. Muslim women spend so much time worried about the wedding day, what will happen, and what's the best way to prepare for this day. You have to remember that when you're planning your wedding, you're not just planning for that one day. There's a whole lifetime where you're going to be married, right? So a lot of sisters will put so much effort and so much focus on preparing for the wedding, but they don't really do that much to prepare for the marriage. There is a lot of advice out there when it comes to marriage, and it can be really confusing and overwhelming. So in this video, I want to tell you 4 of the most important things to do as a Muslim woman to prepare for this special day, to give you the best chances of having a happy, thriving, successful marriage, inshallah. But first, my name is Zahra. I'm all about empowering Muslim women to be the best that they can be in wifehood, womanhood, and motherhood. On this channel and on Instagram, I address topics that are often overlooked in our ummah and encourage Muslim women to embrace their femininity, learn their God-given rights, and become the best wifeys and mothers, inshallah. If you like the sound of that, then please subscribe to this channel. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. Please check the description box to see all my resources and how we can connect, inshallah. So let's get into it. The first point is to make sure that you know your rights and responsibilities as a Muslim wife. Okay? So many of us go into marriage not actually knowing what is expected from us and what are the things that we have to do for our husbands. You have to go into marriage knowing and expecting that there are certain duties that you will have to do. There are certain things that are not compulsory upon you before you get married, but once you get married, once you sign that Nikah contract, or once you agree to that Nikah contract and the marriage has been solidified, then certain things become compulsory upon you. That means that if you don't do these things, you actually get a sin, right? You actually are sinful if you don't do certain things. Now, if you're not clear on what these are, then sis, you might be falling into sin without even knowing. Something else, if you don't know the rights and your responsibilities, then you can be taken advantage of, right? Your husband can treat you in a way that's not nice, and you won't even know that he's not allowed to do that because you don't know what rights you have over him. We hear so many stories of sisters who are being asked to do weird things that are not even permissible in Islam, but because it's her husband that asked her to do it, she thinks that she must go ahead with it. But that's not the case. That's why it's so important that you learn your rights as well as your responsibilities. So, just to mention some of the rights are: you as a Muslim woman are entitled to kind and honorable treatment. Your husband is obliged by Allah to treat you in a kind and honorable manner. You're also entitled to provision. You're also entitled to accommodation. So it's your husband's duty, your husband's responsibility to provide for you in terms of what you eat, what you wear, and also accommodation. This all falls upon your husband. But remember, with such great rights also come great responsibilities. So you as a Muslim woman, my love, you also have great duties that you must fulfill to your husband. Alhamdulillah, we have great rights, okay? But we also have duties. So the main duty is that you must obey your husband in all that is good. As long as it doesn't go against Allah, or it's not something crazy, something that transgresses your rights, something that's going to cause you harm, something that is just unjustifiable, then you don't have to obey him in things like that, of that nature. But as long as it's something that is within your capacity, it's reasonable for you to do, and it's something he expects from you as his wife, then it's upon you to do this, okay, and to obey your husband in this manner. I know a lot of sisters get triggered when we talk about this obedience and submission, and inshallah, I'll be making more videos in detail about that. But why should we be triggered? If you have a husband who is protecting you, providing for you, looking after you, treating you kindly and honorably, then you will have no problem submitting to him and obeying him and allowing him to be the leader of the home as Allah has chosen him to be. Another responsibility of the Muslim wife is that you don't leave the home without your husband's permission and knowledge. And this just makes sense because if he's responsible for protecting you, then he must know where you are. Another right that the husband has is to have intimate relations with his wife. That's a very important right that Muslim husbands have. And also, of course, Muslim women also have this right from their husband, right? He must also do the same for you. There are more rights and there are more responsibilities, but that's another video for another day. The second point that you must know, my dear sister, before marriage is relating to self-care and intimacy. Knowing what to expect from intimacy is very important so that you don't go there feeling all scared or nervous, not knowing what's going to happen. It's very important that you educate yourself on this topic. It's important that you know your own anatomy. This is a big part when it comes to preparing for the intimate side of marriage. I have written a really detailed book about the topic of intimacy in marriage for Muslim women. This is specifically for Muslim women, so I will leave a link to that book. A lot of sisters have read the book and they found it really beneficial. When it comes to self-care and intimacy, you should also know the Islamic rulings. So things like ghusl, how to wash after intimacy, what's allowed, what's not allowed. You also need to know that you also have the right to actually enjoy intimacy, and it's actually a right for you as well, not just for your husband. You'd be surprised how many women literally don't know that intimacy is also something that's made for them, not just the husband. So, going back to the first point about knowing your rights and responsibilities, if you don't know that this is your right, then you're just going to stay there and not get this right. And that's just not okay. Something else is about birth control. You need to be aware of birth control, the different types, which one you plan to use. That's if you plan to delay having children and things of that nature. But even if you want to get pregnant straight after marriage, you might want to delay pregnancy after you give birth because it's possible to get pregnant really soon after you give birth. So you don't want to be getting pregnant within a month or so of after giving birth. You need some time for your body to rest. That's why it's important to know about birth control. I have a community for Muslim women. It's a private community, and this is something that I talk about in great detail. Check the description box and you'll be able to find a link to join my community, inshallah. Remember that you can get pregnant from the very first time that you are intimate with your husband. So birth control is actually something that I encourage Muslim women to think about and plan for before even getting married, inshallah. When it comes to intimacy, we also have to talk about hygiene. This is about washing and cleaning yourself well, hair removal, making sure that you smell fresh and you are clean through and through. Remember that once you're a married woman, you're sharing your body with someone else, technically, right? So sometimes you have your own body odors and you might not smell this because it's your own body odor, but when someone else is close to you, they might be able to smell it. And sisters, this is one area that we don't want to let down at all. Our hygiene levels must be on 100. And I'm not even talking about perfume and all this nice smelling lotions. I'm talking about the basic hygiene of making sure your body is thoroughly cleaned, thoroughly washed. And this is something that I also talk about in great detail in my book, which is called An Intimate Guide for the Muslim Bride. So check that out in the description, inshallah. When it comes to self-care and intimacy, the last thing to mention is making yourself beautiful and attractive for your husband. This is something that's extremely important, extremely important. And I don't think that as a community, I don't think we're taught about this enough. I don't think we as Muslim women know how important this is. I don't think we realize how important this is for men. And that's not necessarily our own fault. That's because we don't grow up dating, we don't grow up trying to attract the male attention. So we're not necessarily aware of how powerful visual stimulation is. It's important that you're aware that you're going to have to beautify yourself. Makeup, hair, clothing, these are all things that are really important. And when I say makeup, I don't mean like a full face of makeup. Please, nobody come for me. You can be very simple makeup. It can just basically be good skincare and a little bit of lip gloss on your lips, some kohl on your eyes, and that's it. Okay, you don't have to go all out and do a full face of makeup. If a full face of makeup is your thing, then sis, you do that, okay? You go for it, okay? Because that's great. You make yourself attractive to your husband and you take pride in it. You should take pride in beautifying yourself for your husband. This is a man who loves you, who works hard to provide for you, who married you. A marriage contract is your husband pledging before Allah that he will look after you, okay? The responsibility is taken from your father and placed onto him. So, this is a man that deserves all of your best, as he also strives to give you all of his best, okay? So, the third point when it comes to things that Muslim women must know before marriage is homemaking. Listen, sis, I'm talking about cleaning, cooking, laundry, and it actually goes beyond that. It's also knowing how to deal with in laws, visitors, knowing how to welcome your husband home well when he comes back from work, knowing how to look after a home, how to look after your husband, how to nurture your family. And don't worry if you're not an expert. We all start from zero, okay? Slowly, as the years go by, as the time goes by, you will develop these skills. You will know how to do things perfectly. But don't ever let anyone tell you that cooking is not important, or that, dealing with your in laws well and welcoming visitors well is not important. It's extremely important, okay? Now, listen, I love my sisters, but I'm not going to be here and lie to you or and tell you you don't have to cook for him, you don't have to clean for him. No, you won't hear that from me, because that's just not true. That's naturally something that's within us. Just like your husband naturally wants to protect you, he wants to provide for you, he loves spending money on you. These are things that Allah has put within us naturally. So, again, take pride in doing this, okay? Take pride in homemaking. Don't ever let anyone make you feel that this is anything less, okay? Because it's something beautiful that can never ever be replaced. All this is part of femininity and being a woman and being a wife. Homemaking is something that I also speak about in my community. So if you are interested, description box, inshallah, to join the sisterhood. The last point I want to mention that as a Muslim woman you should really be aware of before you get married is communication. You need to actually be aware of how to communicate your needs well to your husband. You realize this is a skill, it actually takes time to learn, right? You need to know how to express yourself well when you need something from your husband or when your rights have been transgressed. When your husband does something that's not fair or that's upsetting to you, you need to know how to express yourself assertively yet respectfully to him, because if you don't do this, then some men may take advantage. This again links back to the first point of knowing your rights and knowing your responsibilities. So that way, you can't be taken advantage of. Be aware of how to communicate in terms of your body language. If you get into some sort of conflict, which will happen, you need to know how to resolve this conflict well. Not silent treatment or being aggressive or being rude or disrespectful. That's not how to handle disagreements. So, all this falls under the banner of communication. You need to know how to communicate softly in a feminine way to get what you want from your husband. And also, you need to know how to communicate assertively but respectfully should you need to speak to him about something important. So, sisters, I hope you enjoyed this video. This was a quick rundown of 4 things that I believe are really the most important things for a Muslim woman to know before she gets married. I would love for you to check out the description box so you can check out my ebook, which is an intimate guide for the Muslimah bride. In this book, we really go into detail and give practical tips and advice about what to expect from the intimate aspect of marriage life. This is something that was missing in our community, and it's something that I have written for sisters. So many sisters have found this book so beneficial. There's nothing else that goes to as much detail as this, from hygiene, reproductive wellness, how to communicate, their wedding night, so many topics, okay? And also check out my community. I do have a private community where we go into all things Muslim womanhood, wifehood, and motherhood. I would love for you to join so you can learn all the things, inshallah, that are not spoken about enough in our community. Jazakallah khair for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share it with your sisters. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.